Yeah, I think we have just concluded our annual evaluation of India's economy. Definitely progress has been made on several fronts. On the supply side, the GST has been a big step forward, will be a big step forward once implemented in integrating better the domestic market, and that certainly will be helpful for productivity growth. There have been some other reforms. I think the recent passage of a bankruptcy code is very important. It will help this creative destruction process to move faster, to recycle assets from non-productive activities, bringing them back into more productive sectors. And there's also been some progress on the infrastructure side, without doubt. But you know, structural reforms are a marathon, it's not a sprint. And even though there has been a lot of progress, there's still also much more to be done. In many areas, there are still barriers that limit competition in the domestic market. There are still shortcomings in the infrastructure, and therefore further investment is needed. The banking sector will play an important role in financing investment in the future. We have a twin balance sheet problem that has to be addressed. So I think progress has been made, but we'd like to see much more. Yeah, I mean, for the IMF, of course, it is a concern that there has been a growing question mark regarding global integration. I think we have seen that globalization has led to dramatic improvements in living standards in large part of the world. But at the same time, also we have to acknowledge there have been losers. There are adjustment costs, and I think governments need to do their way to address those and help those who are affected to overcome these difficulties. I think more generally, apart from the globalization, I think the general outlook for the global economy is still that of quite weak global growth. So a country like India, really what matters at the moment, importantly, is what happens domestically. India is fortunate in that sense because it has a very large domestic market. It's also an economy that operates really quite far from the what we could call efficiency frontier. So there's a lot of scope for India, even if the external environment is not as supportive. There's a lot of scope to really do catch-up growth. And that brings us back to the point that we were discussing before. How do you get this catch-up growth? How do you get the economy to produce more with the same inputs, or to accumulate also more inputs? Well, again, it goes to the policy side, it goes to structural reforms, which I think are essential in the current environment for India to continue growing at 6, 7, 8%, which are the growth rates that we really need to sustain to make a meaningful difference in the quality and the standards of living of many Indians. Yeah, I think this is a question that many of us are asking ourselves. That it's probably good to be humble at the beginning and to acknowledge that we don't fully understand, or we're not really sure what the implications will be. So this is an area of continued research also on our end. I think what can be said on this issue is that while of course technical progress, especially additive manufacturing, has the potential to reduce the demands for labor, there are certainly ample other sectors that are still quite labor intensive, including on the services side. And I think what technology will bring is probably a lot of structural change within economies. What this means for for policymakers is really you need a very flexible economy. You need to make sure that you have mobility of factors of production, especially of labor, but also of capital and of land, that they can shift, and then as the comparative advantage moves, that factors can be redeployed. It goes to the point again that we talked before. Some firms will have to exit markets, others, new entrants, will have to come in. So we need a really vibrant business environment to respond to all these shocks. So I think that's certainly one thing that we can say today, but we need to think much more about this.